Joining me now in the studio is Walter Lampersberger, Food and Beverage Director at the ALATI Mediterranean Restaurant here in Beijing. Walter, thank you very much for joining me today. First tell us, what is your daily business like? What is your daily responsibility?
At the moment, as we are a startup company, so a lot of planning and calculating things, staff hiring, checking the area where the restaurant is built up, and go with the legal issues, or where you have to work with the hygiene processes of the building construction, and of course also already creating the menu and the
stuffing. What is the biggest headache for you on a daily basis?
At the moment, we're with the hiring of the chef is one of our biggest concerns.
Why?
It's a little bit tricky because you need really, on one hand, a very professional chef who knows his business, but on the other side, his communication skills with the long-run Chinese employees who will work under him. Won't be so easy if he's just, showing is one possibility, working with pictures is also, but of course the direct communication is always the easiest to have no miscommunication.
Sure. So you're hiring top-class chefs from Europe?
Yes.
And bringing the one or two, I guess, from Europe, and then he has to first be willing to come over, right?
Yes.
He must feel comfortable with living in China, and then, as you said, this big challenge of communicating, because he will be one or two maximum, and he will have to work with a Chinese surrounding. How do you solve that problem? That's very intriguing.
It's not so easy. Also, on one hand, your first step, you have to give your application what you want from the chef, then you have to sort out by telephone interviews, because if they are abroad, it's not so easy to have a face-to-face interview with them. And and the second round, after the telephone interview or face-to-face interview went nicely, you invite them for test cooking, and also, if possible, there's already some Chinese stuff to see how the foreign chefs interact with them, because not every foreign chef is really in a, how you say, workable.
A great communicator, let's say.
With the Chinese.
What is the turnover at this moment? How long can you keep a chef normally?
It's also depending on the chef itself, how he's willing for a challenge. He's saying he wants to do something new, or is he just, coming because, people told him he should come over and have a look, or is he really, you can feel it. It's like with persons in every industry, if he has a passion and the willing, it can be a great succeed, but if let's say it this way, if he's just working for the hiring,
if you're just working for a living, then China is not the place.
It's not the place. No.
But you seem to be confident in this market. You seem to be looking at the promise of this market. Obviously, it's a huge market. It's a booming market, I suppose. I do not know. How do you look at the prospects of Western food or Mediterranean food, let's say, in Beijing?
I think it's a great market in general, because Beijing people especially love Western food, try new food out. So it's not just the classic one. I also heard about some Finnish restaurants, for example. Scandinavian is coming up. But of course, Mediterranean, Italian style is very familiar already through the years. And also the pizza is booming, cheese is booming. I think there is around 10% volume from growth.
For cheese?
For cheese, in China. So it's interesting market also for the producers of cheese in China. And so I think Western food is coming more and more up. But of course, a lot of restaurants are in general in Beijing or in China trying to do the same things. So the main target is to be unique, you know, the one of the top, why they choose your restaurant.
Sure. What
or
is your
to
unique?
find your restaurant.
What do you think is your unique perspective?
I think as we learned it in school, I made hospitality school. We always said the quality first, hygiene, service friendliness. But what I had to learn here especially is the social media marketing and the app market, specialized in China, which is for me a big challenge, but very interesting.
Let's
also
talk about the social media aspect in just a moment, but I'm very intrigued about this hospitality part because I understand in a restaurant in Europe, let's say, the hospitality concept is different from the hospitality concept here. Here, for instance, the Chinese diner would expect instant attention, right? They would want a lot of people, a lot of noise, and everything at the same time. That is hospitality. But in a restaurant in Europe, in Austria, for instance, you have to observe certain order, right? And sometimes politeness or the kind of, you know, nice, tranquil quietness is considered to be a good atmosphere. How do you you know, reconcile all of that?
That's the little bit tricky part. It depends also on the investor what he wants. If he wants it really plain, European style, this takes then a little bit more time, but gets then with the time more and more famous. On the other side, you can already mix a little bit the influences, where you say on some parts you don't take so much care. For example, the food ordering, for the sharing, where you say, okay, let's make some share plates. It's a very good first step to get Chinese customers a little bit more in touch with the Western.
You have to be flexible.
I would say in some bigger, you have to have in your menu parts which attract especially the Chinese customers first to come and see. Also with the online media offers, where you work totally differently to Western restaurants in Europe.
Because the Chinese love to share food.
Yes, for example.
And for Western menu, you cannot share. So how do you do that? So if a Chinese come in and say, okay, we would like to order 1, 2, 3, 4 dishes and we would like to share, what do you do?
That I said it depends on the kind of restaurant you're doing and on the owner you have. If it's a fine dining, it won't be so normal, but I think it will be done because the guest is king. But in a casual dining restaurant, it's given that it's normal, and people expect it also from Western restaurant that it will be done, especially when they come with family, which is the most important part in the restaurant business, also to attract the families, because if your kids are happy, I always say, also that the parents are happy and they come back.
What about this huge mobile part of everything nowadays in China? How do you cater to that? How big is a challenge how big of a challenge is that, and how much of an opportunity is that for you?
For me, as I said, this is the part normally the Chinese side of the investments always take care of this, but of course I get a lot of inputs from friends and so on who are also living already a long time abroad here and say, come on, you have to check out this new application which is coming up, because there are so many. So that the problem is not that you find applications which applications are working worth and fits with your concept, where you say, okay, it's now just, you know, menu for value for money, or is it really something you say, okay, I heard, for example, there's a new invite app, which I think is very interesting. So if you invite your friends to this place, you get a little bit attractive things, and also your friends get, and so your network is growing. But if this would be working on high-end dining, Western, I don't think so, you know, for example. But for casual dining, I think it's working very well.
So for any future potential investors in Western food restaurants in China, what quick advice would you give? And for the Chinese people who are looking for a Western restaurant to dine in, what would you say?
I would recommend, if really investors want to come to China and invest, they should really take some more time than just hopping in. You see, you cannot get the whole input and surrounding of the area where you're thinking about to open a restaurant, or the people who attract your food and your restaurant. To stay a little bit longer in before, so not just 1 week and then you go away and say, okay, everything is fine. You really should try to stay 1-2 months here, get a little bit more familiar also with the people here, you know, how they're thinking, because when I was first time here in Beijing, is now 10 years ago, my mind already changed a lot, I have to say, and from the first impressions, which are still very great, but you see things different if you stay longer in the area. You can understand it better.
Sure. What about for the Chinese people who are curious about Western food? What would you like to say to them if you have a message?
Try it out. Just give it a try.
Open up your mind.
Give it a try. No, it's, you know, I think.
Is there a difference between the Chinese diners and a Western diner in your mind?
I don't think, for example, the main keys, as I've said before, friendliness, quality of the food, this interior are similar.
What they're looking for, I mean, is there a difference in what they're looking for? A Chinese diner here in Beijing and...
You mean the customers?
Yeah,
or
the customer.
I think so. I think so. I think for Chinese dining, it's also more that to have with the family. Round table, for example, is very usual. I think it's unusual if you have, for example, a Chinese restaurant with not round table. So if
do you have round table in your ALATI restaurant?
No, in ALATI we don't have. The foreign owner don't want to.
They don't want.
No, that's to make it unique.
Yeah, but for the Chinese, a round table is quite necessary. Yeah, quite important. Anyway, it's great. I would love to be able to experience your restaurant one day. Thank you very much, Walter, for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And all the best for your business.